stop for one moment? Because if your life has suddenly become harder without any clear reason, if people you once trusted have turned against you, if your name has been dragged into conversations you were never part of, if doors that should have opened have remained shut, then do not dismiss what you are about to hear. This is not just another difficult season. This is not bad luck. This is not proof that God has forgotten you. What if I told you that the intensity of the battle around you is revealing the significance of the purpose within you? What if the very resistance that has made you question your future is the evidence that your future carries something your enemies cannot stop? Stay with me, because before these next few minutes are over, you may finally understand why your life has felt like a battlefield, while everyone else seemed to be living in peace. There are people watching you who smile in your presence, but secretly hope you never rise. There are voices speaking against you that you have never even heard. There are plans being made without your knowledge, conversations happening behind closed doors, judgments formed before anyone ever asked for your side of the story. You have been blamed for things you never did, misunderstood when your intentions were pure, abandoned when you needed loyalty the most, and left wondering whether anyone truly sees your pain. But hear this with every part of your heart. The story did not begin with those who oppose you, and it will not end with them. Long before anyone decided to fight against you, God had already begun fighting for you. Before a single accusation was spoken, God already knew the truth. Before betrayal ever reached your door, God had already prepared strength that you did not know you possessed. The greatest mistake you can make is believing that the visible battle is the whole battle. It is easy to become consumed by the faces you recognize, the names you know, and the situations you can touch. But God sees what you cannot see. While you have been wondering why certain people suddenly changed, why opportunities disappeared, why relationships broke apart, without warning, God has been protecting you from dangers that would have destroyed you had He allowed them to remain. Sometimes what feels like rejection is actually divine protection. Sometimes what feels like loss is the removal of something that could never carry you into your calling. Sometimes the people who walked away were never meant to walk into your future. You mourned their absence while God was preserving your destiny. Do not confuse silence with abandonment. One of the hardest moments in any person's life is when they pray with all their heart and heaven seems quiet. Your emotions begin asking dangerous questions. Has God forgotten me? Does He still see me? Why does everyone else's breakthrough seem to arrive while mine remains delayed? Those questions are real, but they are not always truthful. A seed buried beneath the ground experiences complete darkness before anyone sees life breaking through the surface. If that seed could speak, it might believe it had been forgotten. Yet every hidden moment is preparing for visible growth. In the same way, your hidden season has not been empty. While others have been measuring your life by what they can see, God has been working where human eyes cannot reach. The enemy of your peace wanted one thing above everything else: to convince you to quit before the answer arrived. He wanted your disappointment to become your identity. He wanted your betrayal to become your definition. He wanted every painful experience to whisper the same lie: give up now. Nothing will ever change. But look at yourself. Despite every disappointment, you are still standing. Despite every tear, you are still searching for God. Despite every unfair attack, your heart still refuses to surrender. Do you realize what that means? It means that what has been keeping you alive is greater than what has been trying to break you. The strength you still possess did not come from circumstances. It came from the God who has never taken his hand off your life, even during the nights when you felt completely alone. There is something that those who oppose you fail to understand. They believe they are delaying your future, but they are unknowingly preparing the very testimony that will one day leave them speechless. Think about it for a moment. If your life carried no purpose, why would there be so much resistance? Why would ordinary moments become extraordinary battles? Why would your heart be tested in places where others seem to walk without difficulty? Pressure always reveals value. Nobody builds walls around an empty field. Nobody guards what has no worth. The intensity surrounding your life is not proof that you have been abandoned. It is evidence that what God has placed within you carries weight. The enemy can recognize significance long before people do. That is why some attacks arrive before your breakthrough does. They are attempts to stop a future that has not yet become visible. But hear this with confidence. No attack can erase what God has already written. You have spent too much time asking, why me? Today, ask a different question. Ask, what is God protecting within me? That single question changes everything. Instead of seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances, you begin recognizing yourself as someone being prepared for an assignment greater than your current understanding. Every disappointment has taught you discernment. Every betrayal has opened your eyes to the difference between words and character. Every season of loneliness has taught you to depend on God instead of applause. You may not have chosen these lessons, but they are becoming part of the strength that no one will ever be able to steal from you. There are people who appear successful because everything came easily. But when the storm arrives, they collapse because they never developed endurance. God has been building endurance in you. That process is painful, but it is never pointless. Some of the deepest wounds you carry were not caused by strangers. They came from people you welcomed into your life. You trusted them with your heart, your dreams, your fears, and your loyalty. You believed they would celebrate your growth, but instead they became uncomfortable when they saw you moving forward. They applauded you only as long as you remained beneath them. The moment God began lifting your perspective, their encouragement turned into criticism. Their smiles became forced. Their conversations became colder. Suddenly, you felt like a stranger among people who once called you family. That kind of pain reaches places words cannot describe. It leaves you wondering whether genuine loyalty even exists anymore. But listen carefully. Not every relationship is designed to survive your growth. So some people love the version of you that needs them, but they become threatened by the version of you that depends on God. Do not allow betrayal to harden your heart. This is one of the enemy's favorite strategies. If he cannot destroy your purpose, he will try to poison your spirit. He wants your disappointment to become bitterness. He wants your caution to become permanent distrust. He wants one painful experience to convince you that everyone will eventually hurt you. But if you surrender to bitterness, the people who wounded you continue controlling your future long after they have left your life. Refuse to give them that power. Let God heal what they broke. Let Him restore what they damaged. Let Him remind you that another person's behavior never changes His faithfulness. Human promises can fail overnight, but God's promises remain standing when everything else has fallen apart. Perhaps you have noticed that every time you decide to move forward, another obstacle appears. You gather your courage only to face another disappointment. You finally begin believing again, only to hear another accusation. You make peace with yesterday, and suddenly another challenge rises before you. It feels exhausting, doesn't it? There are moments when you whisper, God, how much more can I carry? Yet the remarkable truth is this: you are still here. You have endured storms that should have destroyed your confidence. You have survived seasons that should have stolen your hope. You have walked through valleys where you thought your strength had completely disappeared, yet somehow you kept taking one more step. Do not overlook that miracle. The greatest evidence of God's presence is not always found in dramatic moments. Sometimes it is found in the simple fact that you did not give up when every reason to quit surrounded you. There are battles you know about, and there are battles you will never know existed because God stopped them before they reached you. How many unseen dangers has He redirected? How many wrong opportunities has He quietly removed? How many conversations were taking place behind your back while God prevented their plans from succeeding? You only see the disappointments that reached your doorstep, but God sees every disaster that never arrived because His hand was already there. Imagine if you could see your entire life from His perspective. Imagine discovering how many times your greatest frustration was actually your greatest protection. You cried because a door closed, never knowing that what waited behind it would have stolen your peace. You mourned relationships that ended, never realizing they would have led you away from your purpose. God's silence has often been His shield, and His delays have often been His mercy. So lift your head, not because the battle has disappeared, but because the outcome does not belong to those who oppose you. Their words are temporary. Their schemes have limits. Their influence ends where God's authority begins. They may gather against you, misunderstand you, criticize you, or attempt to diminish your confidence, but they cannot rewrite the purpose that God has placed upon your life. Every step they take against you only becomes another opportunity for God to demonstrate that His plans are never controlled by human opposition. The day is coming when you will look back at this painful chapter with different eyes. You will realize that what seemed like the end was only the place where God was teaching you to trust Him beyond what your eyes could see. And when that day arrives, you will no longer ask why the battle was so fierce. You will understand that the size of the battle was revealing the greatness of the destiny God was protecting all along. There is another truth that few people are willing to face, but you must hear it today. Not everyone who is fighting you is doing it because they truly know you. Some are fighting the version of you they created in their own minds. They judged your intentions without ever hearing your heart. They accepted rumors as truth because truth required patience and rumors required nothing at all. They saw one moment of your life and believed they understood your entire journey. They watched one mistake and ignored 1,000 acts of faithfulness. They formed conclusions before they ever sought understanding. Does that sound familiar? Have you ever stood in silence while someone else told your story incorrectly? Have you ever watched people believe lies because lies spread faster than integrity? If so, do not allow that injustice to consume you. God never asks you to carry the burden of proving yourself to people who have already decided not to believe you. Your responsibility is not to chase every false accusation, Your responsibility is to remain faithful while God reveals the truth in His perfect time. The temptation during seasons of misunderstanding is to spend all your strength defending your reputation. You begin explaining yourself to one person, then another, hoping that if you just find the right words, everyone will finally understand. But notice how exhausting that becomes. Every explanation demands another explanation. Every defense invites another accusation. Before long, you are living for the opinions of people who never intended to celebrate your freedom in the first place. God did not create you to become a prisoner of public approval. If your peace depends on everyone agreeing with you, your peace will disappear the moment one voice rises against you. There comes a moment when wisdom quietly whispers, "Be still." Not because the lies are acceptable, but because God's truth does not need to compete with human noise. Truth has a way of standing long after deception has exhausted itself. You have been asking why the battle refuses to end. But perhaps the better question is this: who are you becoming because of the battle? Before these trials, you trusted people too quickly. Before these disappointments, you measured your worth by acceptance. Before these lonely nights, you believed security came from predictable circumstances. Now look at what God has been shaping. Your discernment has become sharper. Your dependence on Him has become deeper. Your courage no longer comes from applause, but from conviction. You have learned that faith is strongest when feelings are weakest. That transformation could never have happened in a life without resistance. Comfort entertains you for a season, but struggle reveals what truly lives inside your heart. Every difficult chapter has stripped away another layer of fear until the only place left to stand is upon the faithfulness of God. Do not underestimate the power of what God is doing in secret. The world celebrates what is visible. It applauds the finished story, the public victory, the obvious success. But God often chooses to perform His greatest work where nobody is watching. While others are chasing recognition, He is building character. While others are competing for attention, He is strengthening endurance. While others are desperate to be noticed, He is teaching you to remain faithful even when nobody claps for your obedience. That hidden work is priceless because it creates a foundation that cannot be shaken by changing opinions. Anyone can appear confident when life is easy, but the person who continues trusting God after disappointment, after betrayal, after delay, after unanswered questions, that person possesses a strength the world cannot manufacture. Never believe that your tears have been wasted. Every tear has spoken a language that God understands completely. There were nights when you could not find the words to pray. Your heart was too tired, your mind too overwhelmed, your spirit too wounded to form complete sentences. You simply sat in silence, carrying pain too deep for language. Even in those moments, God was not distant. He was not waiting for perfect words. He was near enough to understand every unspoken cry, every hidden disappointment, every silent plea for strength. Human beings often recognize visible suffering while overlooking invisible wounds, but God sees both. He knows the battles you smile through. He knows the weight you carry without complaining. He knows the courage it takes just to keep moving when your heart feels exhausted. Nothing about your struggle has escaped His attention. There will come a day when the same people who underestimated you will wonder how you remain standing. They will search for explanations they can understand. Some will say you were simply fortunate. Others will call it coincidence. A few may even pretend they always believed in you. But deep within your heart, you will know the truth. It was never your own strength that sustained you. There were moments when you were certain you had reached your limit. There were days when you believed you had nothing left to give. Yet, every time you thought the end had arrived, God quietly supplied enough strength for one more step, enough courage for one more decision, enough hope for one more sunrise. That is how He works. He often provides exactly what is needed for today instead of revealing everything about tomorrow, because He is teaching you to trust His presence rather than your predictions. So stop measuring your future by the voices that oppose you. They do not possess the authority to define your destiny. They cannot cancel what God has established. Their criticism may delay your comfort, but it cannot destroy your calling. Their rejection may wound your emotions, but it cannot remove God's purpose from your life. Every attack has an expiration date. Every storm eventually reaches its limit. Every night gives way to morning, because God has never surrendered the final word to darkness. Hold on a little longer. Keep your heart free from bitterness. Continue walking with integrity even when dishonesty appears to prosper. Refuse to become the very thing that wounded you. Let your character remain stronger than your circumstances. For the God who has carried you through every hidden battle is already preparing a future that no betrayal can steal, no accusation can erase, and no opposition can prevent. When that moment arrives, you will realize that every painful step was leading you towards a purpose far greater than anything your enemies ever imagined. There is a reason your spirit has refused to surrender, even when your heart felt shattered into pieces. There is a reason you are still searching for hope after disappointment tried to convince you that hope was dangerous. There is a reason you continue reaching toward God after people misrepresented your kindness, questioned your motives, and walked away without looking back. That reason is not found in your own determination alone. It is found in the unchanging nature of the God who never abandons what He has chosen to shape. Human beings often walk away when the journey becomes difficult. They celebrate beginnings but disappear during battles. God is different. He remains when everyone else leaves. He strengthens when everyone else criticizes. He restores when everyone else assumes you are beyond repair. The people who rejected you saw a moment. God sees the masterpiece He is still creating. Many people believe the greatest danger is the enemy standing in front of them. But sometimes the greater danger is the fear growing inside them. Fear whispers, "You will always be alone." Fear says, "Trust no one again." Fear insists, "Your best days are behind you." And if those lies remain unchallenged, they begin building invisible prisons around your heart. You may still be breathing, but you stop expecting anything good. You protect yourself so completely that you no longer allow hope to enter. Yet, God did not preserve your life merely so you could survive behind walls built by disappointment. He is calling you into freedom, and freedom requires courage. Not the courage to pretend you were never hurt, but the courage to believe that your pain will not have the final word. Every scar can become a reminder that God brought you through what was designed to destroy you. Think about how many times you believed everything was over. There were moments when one phone call changed everything. One conversation broke your confidence. One betrayal altered the way you looked at people. One unexpected loss made the future seem uncertain. At the time, it felt like your entire story had collapsed. But look where you are now. You are still standing. You are still breathing. You are still listening. That alone is evidence that God has been carrying you through places where your own strength would never have been enough. You survived days you once believed were impossible to survive. You overcame nights when you thought the sun would never rise again. If God has already carried you through what once looked impossible, why would you believe He has suddenly become unable to carry you through what lies ahead? Do not become impatient with the pace of God's work. We often want immediate answers because pain feels urgent. We want instant justice because betrayal feels personal. We want every wrong to be corrected today because waiting seems unfair. But God is never rushed by human timelines. He sees connections that you cannot see. He knows how one delayed answer protects 10 future blessings. He understands how one unexpected detour prevents a lifetime of regret. If everything happened according to your schedule, you might receive what you wanted while missing what you truly needed. God's wisdom is greater than your urgency. His perspective is wider than your vision. Trusting Him does not always remove the mystery, but it gives you confidence that the mystery is not meaningless. There are people who expected your faith to collapse under pressure. They watched your struggles, quietly waiting for you to give up. They assumed that enough disappointment would silence your prayers. They believed that enough rejection would convince you to abandon your purpose. But they underestimated the one who has been sustaining you. They thought they were measuring your strength, when in reality they were witnessing God's faithfulness. They never understood why you continued rising after every setback. They could not explain why peace kept returning after every storm. They expected resentment to consume your heart, but instead God continued teaching you forgiveness. They expected bitterness to become your identity, but instead God continued refining your character. The battle has never been a test of whether God is faithful. It has been a revelation that He remains faithful even when every visible circumstance argues otherwise. One day, the silence that has surrounded your life will be broken in a way you never expected. The truth that was hidden will become clear. The strength that was invisible will become undeniable. The purpose that seemed delayed will begin unfolding with a precision that only God could have arranged. You will not need to force people to recognize what God has established. You will not need to chase validation from those who refuse to understand you. God's work speaks with a power that human opinions cannot silence. When He opens a door, no amount of criticism can close it. When He lifts a life, no amount of opposition can keep it down. Those who fought against you may never fully understand why their efforts failed, because they never realized they were trying to stand against the plans of God. So lift your eyes beyond the battle. Refuse to define your future by yesterday's betrayal or today's uncertainty. Refuse to allow another person's actions to determine the size of your hope. Your story is not being written by those who criticized you. It is not being controlled by those who abandoned you. It is not being decided by those who misunderstood you. Your story is held in the hands of the God who knew your name before anyone spoke against it, who saw your purpose before anyone questioned it, and who prepared a future before anyone tried to prevent it. Walk forward with confidence, not because the road is easy, but because the one who walks before you has never failed. Keep your heart pure when others choose bitterness. Keep your integrity when others choose deception. Keep your faith when circumstances demand fear. The voices against you may be loud for a season, but they are temporary. The promises of God are stronger than every accusation, greater than every rejection, deeper than every wound, and more enduring than every storm. The battle surrounding your life is not the announcement of your defeat. It is the evidence that your purpose is worth fighting over. And the God who has defended you in silence will reveal His faithfulness in ways so unmistakable that even your darkest season will become living proof that no force on earth can overcome the destiny He has prepared for those who continue to trust Him. There is one final deception you must refuse to believe, because it has stolen the peace of countless people who were standing on the edge of their breakthrough. It is the lie that says, "You have been forgotten." Nothing could be further from the truth. Forgotten people are not refined the way you have been refined. Forgotten people are not strengthened through impossible seasons the way you have been strengthened. Forgotten people do not experience the invisible hand of God carrying them through nights they never should have survived. Look back over your life with honest eyes. There were moments when your strength was gone, your confidence had disappeared, your plans had fallen apart, your heart was exhausted from trusting, loving, forgiving, and hoping. Yet somehow you found the courage to keep moving. Where did that courage come from? It was not your own. It was the quiet evidence that God was holding you long before you realized you were being held. Even when you believed you were walking alone, He had never stepped away. Even when your prayers seemed to disappear into silence, He was already arranging answers that your eyes could not yet recognize. Some of you have spent too much time grieving over people who never truly deserved the place they occupied in your life. You have replayed conversations that cannot be changed. You have imagined different endings to stories that God intentionally allowed to close. You have carried guilt for relationships that were never yours to save. But hear this with absolute clarity. Not every ending is a failure. Some endings are acts of divine protection. God will never allow your future to depend on someone who refuses to value what He has placed inside you. If a person continually dishonors your peace, belittles your calling, celebrates your failures, or quietly resents your growth, why would you expect God to keep them beside you forever? Sometimes the greatest act of mercy is separation. It hurts because your heart remembers the good moments, but God sees the moments you never knew about. He sees hidden motives, secret intentions, conversations that happened without your knowledge, and decisions made behind your back. What feels like painful loss today may one day become the reason you thank God with tears of gratitude. Never confuse delay with denial. We live in a world that demands immediate results. People celebrate quick success, instant recognition, and overnight transformation. But God often works in a different rhythm. He is not producing temporary victories that disappear with changing circumstances. He is building something that can survive every season. Imagine constructing a building that must stand for generations. Would you rush the foundation simply because people were becoming impatient? Of course not. The deeper the foundation, the greater the structure it can support. In the same way, God has been digging deep within your character. Every difficult conversation, every unexpected setback, every lonely season has been strengthening foundations that will support blessings far greater than you currently imagine. Others may appear to move faster, but speed is meaningless if the foundation cannot sustain the weight of what is coming. You may have noticed something remarkable about the strongest people you have ever met. They usually do not speak the loudest. They do not constantly seek attention. They do not need to prove their worth in every conversation. Why? Because genuine strength does not grow in comfort. It grows through endurance. The deepest confidence is born after surviving what once seemed impossible. That is exactly what God has been developing within you. The world often mistakes gentleness for weakness, patience for passivity, and humility for insecurity. But there is enormous strength in a person who has every reason to become bitter and yet chooses peace instead. There is extraordinary courage in someone who has been betrayed and still refuses to surrender kindness. There is remarkable faith in someone who has experienced disappointment after disappointment, yet still wakes up believing that God remains faithful. That kind of character cannot be manufactured. It is forged in places where applause is absent and only God sees the battle. Perhaps you have asked, why does it seem as though those who oppose me keep succeeding while I keep struggling? That question has troubled many hearts, but appearances often deceive. You are comparing visible moments while God is preparing eternal outcomes. A tree may appear healthy for a season, yet be rotting at its roots. Another tree may seem lifeless during winter, while hidden life is quietly preparing for spring. Which one would you rather become? Temporary success without lasting stability, or slow, steady growth that endures every storm? God has never been interested in giving you a victory that depends upon perfect circumstances. He desires to build within you a faith that remains unshaken, whether the winds are calm or fierce. The people who laugh today do not determine tomorrow. The people who criticize today do not write your future. Their voices may echo for a while, but God's purpose continues long after human opinions have faded into silence. Do not waste your energy wishing you could return to who you were before the pain began. That person could not carry the future God had prepared. The version of you that existed before the betrayal was more trusting, but less discerning. The version of you before disappointment was hopeful, but not yet deeply rooted. The version of you before the battle loved God, but had never experienced what it meant to depend on Him when every visible support disappeared. You have changed, and that change is not something to fear. Yes, the process has been painful. Yes, there were moments when you questioned everything. Yes, there were nights when tears became your only language. But through every moment, God has been shaping someone who cannot be easily shaken by criticism, easily distracted by temptation, or easily defeated by adversity. You are not merely recovering from what happened to you. You are becoming someone stronger because of what God has done within you. The greatest victory waiting ahead is not simply that your circumstances will improve. It is that your heart will no longer be controlled by the people who once wounded it. Imagine waking up without carrying the weight of resentment. Imagine seeing the names of those who betrayed you without feeling anger consume your spirit. Imagine remembering painful chapters without allowing them to steal today's peace. That is true freedom. God is not only preparing external restoration, He is preparing internal restoration. He does not want you to merely survive your past. He wants you to rise above it with a heart that remains soft, a spirit that remains humble, and a faith that remains unbreakable. Because when your heart belongs completely to God, no enemy can steal the peace He has planted there. Day is coming when everything that tried to discourage you will become part of the testimony that strengthens someone else. The tears you cried in secret will become words of hope for another weary soul. The battles you thought would destroy you will become evidence that God never abandoned you. The rejection that once broke your heart will become proof that God's direction is wiser than human acceptance. The delays that frustrated you will become reminders that His timing protected you from what you could not see. Nothing you have endured in faith will be wasted. Every scar will tell a story, not of defeat, but of divine preservation. Every setback will reveal another layer of God's wisdom. Every closed door will remind you that the right path could never have been blocked by those who stood against you. So stand where you are today with your head lifted high, not because every question has already been answered, but because you know the one who holds every answer. Refuse to surrender your peace to people who never had the authority to define your future. Refuse to allow temporary battles to convince you that your destiny has been cancelled. Continue walking with integrity even when dishonesty appears to prosper. Continue choosing compassion when others choose cruelty. Continue speaking truth when lies seem louder. Continue trusting God when the road ahead feels uncertain. There is a strength growing within you that no accusation can weaken, a confidence forming within you that no rejection can erase, and a hope rising within you that no darkness can extinguish. Those who have fought against you may believe they have delayed your journey, but they have only become witnesses to the unstoppable faithfulness of God. The God who has carried you through every hidden battle is not finished. He is still working, still protecting, still preparing, still strengthening. And when His appointed moment arrives, no force, no voice, no betrayal, and no opposition will be able to stand against what He has already decided to accomplish through your life. Listen to me carefully, because what I am about to say is not an ordinary word, not a casual statement, not a suggestion from man. It is a divine declaration. God said you will be a billionaire. When God speaks, reality must bend to His voice. When God declares something over your life, everything in creation begins to rearrange itself to make it happen. You may not look like it now. You may not feel like it now. Your bank account may deny it. But if God said it, it is already written in the realm of the Spirit. It's already sealed in the courts of heaven. When God speaks, He does not consult your past. He does not consult your mistakes, your failures, your background, your education, or your connections. God does not ask for permission to bless you. When God says you will be a billionaire, it is not a prediction, it is a decree. The same voice that said, "Let there be light," is the same voice saying to you now, "You will be a billionaire." And when that voice echoes through the heavens, everything that once resisted you begins to submit. Every door that was closed begins to open. Every resource that was hidden begins to find its way to you. Because divine instruction has been released. You see, there are moments when God releases a word so strong that the earth itself cannot ignore it. When God decides to lift a man, He does not need to ask anyone for approval. When God chooses to bless a person, no curse, no demon, no envy, no limitation can stand against it. God Himself said, "You will be a billionaire," not to boast, not to worship money, but to glorify His power through your abundance. Because when a righteous man rises in wealth, the name of God is magnified through his stewardship. You must understand this truth. The blessing of God is not a result of labor alone. It is a result of divine favor. The world says you must work harder, struggle longer, compete fiercely. But when God speaks prosperity into your destiny, it is not the sweat of your brow that brings it. It is the wind of His Spirit that carries it to you. The wealth you are about to hold is not coming by logic. It is coming by divine orchestration. God is raising billionaires not from the elite, but from the hidden places, from the humble, from the overlooked, from those who dared to believe when everything around them said, impossible. Many people misunderstand wealth. They think wealth is merely about money. No. True wealth is the manifestation of divine abundance. It is the overflow of God's intention for your life. It is a signal that you have aligned your heart with His purpose. When God says you will be a billionaire, He is not just talking about digits in your account. He is talking about your capacity to influence, to build, to restore, to bless, to transform. Billionaire is not just a financial status. It is a divine calling. It is a covenant position. You must prepare yourself for what God has spoken. Because when God gives you a promise, He also prepares you for its weight. A billion blessing requires $1 billion heart. Many want the crown, but they reject the cross of discipline, faith, and trust. You must understand that divine wealth is not given to those who chase money. It is given to those who chase God. Money is the servant of divine purpose. And when God sees that you will not let money rule you, He will command money to obey you. There will be seasons of silence before the fulfillment. God will test your faith before He trusts you with fortune. He will ask you to believe even when there is nothing visible to hold on to. Because faith is the currency of divine manifestation. Faith is the invisible bank account that funds the visible one. You cannot withdraw from heaven what you have not deposited through faith. When God said you will be a billionaire, He was not testing your intellect. He was testing your belief. Can you believe Him even when your circumstances contradict Him? Can you stand firm even when you are mocked? Remember, every billionaire chosen by God must first be broken by God. Brokenness precedes elevation. The vessel must be emptied before it can be filled. Do not despise your current season of lack, because it is the classroom of preparation. God is teaching you the language of abundance through the lessons of scarcity. He is molding your spirit so that when wealth arrives, pride will not destroy you. He is removing greed, envy, fear, and impatience so that when the floodgates open, your heart will remain pure. The promise of God does not fail. Time cannot erase it. Delay cannot destroy it. Doubt cannot cancel it. When God said, you will be a billionaire, that word became immortal. It cannot die. It will live until it becomes flesh. And when the appointed time arrives, you will look around and see that every connection, every opportunity, every loss, and every pain was part of the architecture of divine success. God wastes nothing. Even your struggles are assets in the kingdom economy. But listen carefully, you must begin to think like what God called you. If God said you will be a billionaire, you cannot think like a beggar. You cannot speak like a victim. You cannot move like someone who is unsure of destiny. You must rise in your mentality. God prospers according to the level of your revelation. You cannot receive what you cannot perceive. The limit of your thought becomes the limit of your manifestation. When you think small, you insult the vastness of God. When you think big, you honor His majesty. Do not ask how. It is not your job to calculate God. He is the God who brings water from rocks, oil from jars, and manna from heaven. He does not operate through logic. He operates through faith. Your role is to align, not to analyze. You do not need to know the route when you trust the guide. You do not need to know the formula when you know the source. If God said you will be a billionaire, your duty is to walk as if it is already done, talk as if it is already manifested, and act as if heaven has already signed the document. Be careful with your words. Your mouth is the pen that writes your destiny. Stop speaking lack. Stop confessing fear. Stop repeating the language of limitation. Begin to speak the language of abundance. Say, I am what God said I am. I have what God said I have. I will see what God said I will see. Every time you declare that, you align the atmosphere with divine reality. Words are seeds. Speak wealth, and wealth begins to grow. Speak faith, and faith multiplies. The reason God wants to make you a billionaire is not for luxury. It is for legacy. It is not for show. It is for service. You will fund dreams, build schools, feed the hungry, restore dignity here, and demonstrate that the blessing of God is real. You will be proof that obedience is not poverty, that righteousness is not weakness, that walking with God is not limitation. Your wealth will be a testimony that God is not a theory, He is power. The world has seen billionaires made by greed, manipulation, and deceit. But now God is raising billionaires born of righteousness. Men and women whose wealth is rooted in integrity, whose prosperity is born of prayer, whose abundance flows from obedience. God is rewriting the story of wealth. He is saying, I can make anyone great as long as their heart is mine. You are that person. You are that vessel. You are that chosen one. Guard your heart in this journey. Because when wealth comes, so does attention. Many will try to attach themselves to your success. Some will envy you, others will misunderstand you. But remember, your calling is divine, not social. You do not owe explanation to man when you are walking in divine instruction. If God said you will be a billionaire, your loyalty must remain with the one who spoke, not the ones who watch. Do not measure your progress by comparison. Some will rise faster, some slower. But divine timing is not delay, it is precision. God is not slow, He is strategic. Every step you take is calibrated by divine wisdom. Even when you feel behind, God is aligning the right connections, opportunities, and resources for your manifestation. You are not late, you are being perfected. The promise will not come a day early or a day late. It will arrive at the moment when you are mature enough to manage it. Your environment may not believe, your friends may doubt, your family may not understand. But it doesn't matter who disbelieves you when God Himself has already affirmed you. Every no from man is irrelevant when heaven has said, yes, you must walk with boldness. You must speak with authority. You must carry yourself with the dignity of divine destiny. And when that moment comes, and it will come, You will stand before the world as evidence that God keeps His word. Your story will silence the mouths of mockers. Your testimony will awaken faith in others. People will say, "How did you do it?" And you will say, "God said it, and I believed." That will be the secret of your success, not strategy, not skill, but surrender to divine instruction. Because true wealth is not a result of chance, it is a result of covenant. You are not chasing riches, you are fulfilling prophecy. You are walking in the script God wrote for you before the foundation of the earth. Every challenge you face now is only confirming how valuable your destiny is. You are not being punished, you are being prepared. When God declares abundance over your life, He is not describing a possibility, He is revealing a destiny. You are not merely hoping for wealth. You are walking toward what has already been established in the divine plan. God's word is not like human promises. People can change their minds, but God's word is eternal. The moment He said you will be a billionaire, that moment your future shifted. The invisible laws of the universe began to align themselves with His command. The winds of destiny began to move in your favor. Even when you cannot see it, things are moving beneath the surface. The unseen hand of God is rearranging circumstances, redirecting people, and rebuilding opportunities just to fulfill what He spoke over you. But you must understand this. Wealth without wisdom destroys, but wealth with divine direction transforms. God will not release abundance into unprepared hands. He trains your mind before He fills your account. He strengthens your character before He multiplies your resources. Because the higher you rise, the deeper your roots must go. Wealth will not change you, it will reveal who you truly are. That is why God refines you before He elevates you. He allows hardship not to punish, but to polish. He tests your patience, your loyalty, and your motives. He asks you, will you still trust me when nothing around you looks like what I promised? For it is easy to believe when everything is visible, but faith is proven when you hold on to God's word in the dark. There is a reason some people never rise financially. They want the blessing, but they reject the process. They pray for abundance, but disobey divine instruction. God is not looking for dreamers who talk about wealth. He is searching for daughters who align with His principles. Every divine promise carries a divine condition. You cannot expect God to bless you while living contrary to His wisdom. He blesses the obedient, not the careless. He prospers those who walk in integrity, who give when it is hard, who trust Him with their substance. When you make God your priority, He makes abundance your portion. God will teach you the economy of faith. The principle that supernatural supply flows not from what you hold, but from what you release. The world says, hold tightly, save every coin, protect your wealth. But God says, give freely, and I will multiply. He is not trying to take from you, He is trying to increase you. When you sow into others, when you give to the poor, when you invest in good causes, you are opening the gates of divine return. What you give does not leave your life. It leaves your hand and enters your future. God never forgets a seed. Every act of generosity is a divine transaction recorded in eternity, waiting for the perfect time to manifest in abundance. You must train your eyes to see beyond the natural. The physical realm is not the final reality. It is the reflection of the spiritual. Poverty often begins in the mind before it appears in the pocket. Likewise, prosperity begins in faith before it shows in finances. You cannot live rich in spirit and remain poor in manifestation. God designed the world to respond to faith. What you believe deeply becomes what you eventually see physically. That is why you must protect your inner world. Your thoughts, your meditations, your confessions, they are the architects of your reality. When God gives you a promise, the enemy will always attempt to whisper doubt. He will tell you that you are not qualified, that it is too late, that others are more capable. But remember, God does not choose the qualified. He qualifies the chosen. He lifts those who rely completely on Him. When He said you will be a billionaire, He factored in your weaknesses, your failures, and your shortcomings. None of those disqualify you. In fact, they are the very reasons God's glory will be magnified through you. Because when you rise, the world will know that it was not your ability, but His hand that brought you there. Do not let small-minded people limit your faith. Some will tell you that it is wrong to desire wealth, that you should be content with little. They do not understand that divine abundance is not greed, it is purpose. God wants His people to rise so they can be channels of good, vessels of transformation, and pillars of generosity. How can you feed the hungry without resources? How can you build schools, shelters, and hospitals without provision? God gives wealth to those whose hearts are aligned with compassion. He does not raise billionaires for self-glory, but for divine responsibility. You are blessed to be a blessing. You are chosen to be a channel of His abundance. There will be moments when you feel nothing is happening, when your efforts seem wasted, when your faith feels weak. In those moments, remember this: God works in silence. The seed grows underground long before the fruit appears. The waiting season is not the wasting season, it is the shaping season. God is building your endurance so that when success comes, you can sustain it. Many people receive blessings they cannot maintain because they did not let God prepare them first. Do not rush what God is perfecting. His timing is flawless. When He releases the flood of blessings, it will be so overwhelming that you will understand why He made you wait. And when that breakthrough comes, remember where it came from. Wealth can be a dangerous illusion. It can make people forget the source. The moment you forget God, you start sinking. Stay humble. Stay connected to the one who gave it. Never let success separate you from surrender. When your hands are full, keep your heart empty of pride. When you sit among the powerful, remember the days you cried to God in silence. Gratitude protects the blessing. Humility sustains it. God is not limited by systems. He does not need the economy to favor you. He does not need connections to bless you. He does not need your job, your business, or your investors to prosper you. All He needs is your faith. He can use anything. A simple idea, a single opportunity, even a stranger, to change your entire destiny. Stop trying to figure out the method. Focus on the Master. When you put your trust fully in God, He will surprise you with sudden acceleration. In one day, He can change your story. In one moment, He can erase years of struggle. You do not serve a God of gradual change, you serve a God of sudden miracles. You must also understand the spiritual warfare attached to divine wealth. When God is about to lift you, darkness will try to distract you. It will send confusion, temptation, laziness, and fear, not because the enemy is strong, but because your destiny is dangerous to his plans. He fears what will happen when a God-fearing billionaire rises. He fears what will happen when you begin to find light, truth, and hope. That is why you must protect your mind and your peace. Guard your focus as if it were gold, because it is. Distraction is the enemy of destiny. Stay focused on what God said, not what people say. There will be critics, there will be mockers. Some will call you delusional, others will call you arrogant. But remember, they did not hear what God told you. They were not there when He whispered your future into your heart. Do not expect them to understand what was never revealed to them. Walk in quiet confidence. Let your results speak for you. The day will come when those who mocked you will ask for your advice. Those who doubted you will seek your counsel. God will use your success to silence your critics. And when you finally step into that season of overflow, remember that money is not the master. It is the messenger. It is not the destination. It is the tool. Use it to reflect the heart of God. Let your wealth bring light where there is darkness, joy where there is sorrow, and hope where there is despair. Build with it. Heal with it. Empower with it. You were not called to be rich. You were called to be impactful. And wealth is the language through which your impact will speak. Never forget this truth. The promise of God carries its own power to fulfill itself. You do not need to make it happen through anxiety or fear. The word that God spoke over you contains the energy to bring itself to pass. Just as a seed contains the tree within it, so the word of God contains your wealth within it. Your only task is to believe, to nurture that belief, to keep your faith alive, even when everything seems impossible. Faith is the soil where divine promises grow. When God decides to lift a person into a realm of abundance, He does not check the balance of your account. He checks the depth of your faith. God does not look at your job title, your education, or your family name. He looks at your trust in Him, because the wealth He is about to place in your hands is not humanly produced. It is divinely transferred. There are treasures that have been hidden, waiting for the right heart to carry them. There are doors that have been locked for generations, waiting for one voice of faith to speak the key. And when God said you will be a billionaire, He was announcing to heaven and earth that you are that chosen vessel. But listen, the making of a billionaire in God's system is not just financial, it is spiritual. God enlarges your inner world before He expands your outer world. He changes your perspective before He changes your position. He matures your character before He multiplies your resources. Because wealth without divine direction is like power without purpose, dangerous and short-lived. That is why God allows you to pass through fire before you touch gold. He is not delaying you, He is defining you. He is not withholding blessings, He is protecting them until you are ready. There is something sacred about divine timing. Many people sabotage their own blessing by trying to rush what only God can release. You cannot fast forward a divine promise. You can only prepare for it. When God sets a season, not even your impatience can make it arrive early. But when the time is right, not even your enemies can make it arrive late. There will come a moment when what you prayed for suddenly appears, and you will realize why it took so long. Because God was aligning everything to meet at the right intersection of destiny. Your journey to divine wealth may not look glamorous now. You may be surrounded by struggle, by limitations, by misunderstanding. But remember, God begins His masterpieces in hidden places. Diamonds are not formed in light. They are formed in pressure, in darkness deep beneath the surface. So if you are under pressure, if you are in the dark, do not curse the process. God is forming something priceless within you. Every test, every loss, every delay is shaping your capacity to handle what He is about to release. Do not envy others who seem to rise faster than you. Some climb ladders built by men, while others are lifted by the hand of God. What man builds can collapse overnight, but what God establishes stands forever. The wealth that is coming your way will not fade, because it will be rooted in purpose. You will not just be rich, you will be relevant. Your influence will not just be economic, it will be spiritual. You will carry an authority that money cannot buy, because your prosperity will be clothed in divine power. You must develop the mindset of a custodian, not an owner. What God gives you is not for you to worship. It is for you to steward. You are not the source. You are the channel. God gives through you, not just to you. The day you begin to see yourself as the distributor of divine wealth, not just the recipient, that is the day you become unstoppable. When your intentions align with divine purpose, heaven's resources flow without limit. God trusts those who use wealth to extend His goodness, not their ego. And hear this well, divine wealth will test your humility. It will test your relationships. It will test your focus. Because wealth amplifies what is already inside you. If greed lives in your heart, wealth will expose it. If pride lives in your heart, wealth will magnify it. But if gratitude lives in your heart, wealth will multiply it. That is why you must keep your spirit low before God. Even when your name rises high among men, the higher He lifts you, the deeper you must bow in humility. Remember where you came from. Remember who sustained you when no one saw you. Never forget that it was God who opened every door and orchestrated every step. You will notice when God begins to fulfill His promise, opportunities will begin to appear where none existed before. Ideas will begin to flow like rivers. People will begin to be drawn to you, not by coincidence, but by divine magnetism. You will start to notice patterns of favor that cannot be explained. Do not call it luck. It is divine alignment. God's favor will go ahead of you into meetings, into negotiations, into decisions. Your name will be spoken in rooms you have never entered. Your reputation will rise before your presence does. And when you finally arrive, the environment will already be prepared to receive you. That is how God operates. He goes before His chosen ones. Be careful to cultivate peace in the middle of success. Many rise, but few remain steady. True wealth is not the absence of problems, it is the presence of divine stability. When storms come, wealth without God collapses. But when your foundation is built on faith, no storm can shake you. God will teach you how to be content in plenty and patient in scarcity. He will show you that peace is the greatest currency of all. When you have peace with God, everything else falls into place. You must also learn to listen for God's voice even in prosperity. Sometimes, abundance can be louder than wisdom. The noise of success can drown out the whisper of direction. Never allow your growth to silence your dependence. The same voice that guided you through wilderness must continue to guide you through wealth. Stay sensitive. Keep your heart soft before Him, because one wrong partnership, one wrong decision, one moment of pride can destroy what took years to build. But if you remain anchored in divine instruction, you will not just gain wealth, you will sustain it for generations. There will be people who try to imitate your success without understanding your source. They will chase your results but ignore your relationship with God. They will copy your actions but not your alignment. Let them try. They will soon discover that what is divine cannot be duplicated without devotion. The key to your prosperity is not a formula. It is a covenant. What works for you is not your strategy, it is your surrender. God lifts those who submit fully, not those who calculate partially. Do not be surprised when people leave you during your process. God will isolate you before He elevates you. He removes those who cannot handle your next level. He separates you from distractions so He can prepare you for distinction. You may cry over who left, but one day you will thank God for protecting you from those who would have limited you. Every departure is divine pruning, and every pruning makes room for new growth. You are being shaped to handle influence. Wealth is influence, and influence is responsibility. The moment you rise, others will look to you for direction, for inspiration, for leadership. God is preparing you to be a light, not a spotlight, but a lighthouse. A spotlight draws attention to itself, but a lighthouse guides others safely home. That is what your wealth will become. A light of hope for those lost in darkness, a signal of what faith can do. God said you will be a billionaire, but not just for your comfort. He said it because through you, others will see that trusting in God is not in vain. Your story will preach louder than any sermon. When people see what God has done in your life, they will be reminded that nothing is impossible for those who believe. You will be a living testimony of divine faithfulness. You will show that obedience is never wasted, that prayer is never ignored, and that humility is never forgotten. So as you move forward, refuse to let fear dictate your steps. Fear has never built anything of worth. Fear is the language of limitation. Faith is the language of dominion. Speak faith, walk faith, think faith. Let your entire being reflect trust in God's power. When you move in faith, heaven moves with you. When you take one step in obedience, God takes 10 steps in acceleration. The day will come, and it is coming soon, when everything God said will stand visible before your eyes. The wealth will come, the opportunities will come, the expansion will come, and you will look back and say, it was all worth it. You will see why you had to cry, why you had to wait, why you had to be misunderstood. You will understand that every closed door was divine protection, every delay was divine preparation, and every hardship was divine construction. You will stand in awe, not of what you achieved, but of what God accomplished through you. And as you walk in that promise, remember that the greatest wealth is not what you possess, but who possesses you. Stay in God. Let Him continue to be your anchor, your wisdom, your guide. Because the true billionaire is not the one with the most money, but the one with the greatest peace, purpose, and power flowing from God. Your hands may carry gold, but your heart must carry gratitude. Your account may overflow, but your soul must remain anchored in humility. This is your season of becoming. This is the hour when prophecy transforms into reality. God has spoken, and His word does not return empty. Every promise will mature, every vision will manifest. Every dream He planted will bear fruit. Walk with confidence, speak with authority, live with conviction. Because God has already settled it in heaven, you will be a billionaire, and not for vanity, but for victory. Not for display, but for destiny. The world will see your success, but only you will know the secret. It was God, and God alone. So stand firm in faith, for what God has spoken cannot be undone. The path may test you, but the promise will triumph. When God says you will be a billionaire, it is not a wish, it is a decree written in eternity. Walk boldly, think greatly, give generously, and remain humble. Because every breath of your success, every blessing in your hands, and every door that opens before you will echo one truth: that God alone is the source, the sustainer, and the finisher of your destiny. When life presses you down, when everything seems uncertain, when your heart is weary from fighting battles you cannot understand, there is one truth that will never fail you. Put everything in God's hand. Because when you place it all in God's hand, you are no longer carrying it in your own. You stop struggling against the storm and begin to move with the wind of divine power. You stop trying to fix what only heaven can heal. You stop depending on what is limited and begin to depend on the infinite. There is nothing more powerful, nothing more peaceful, nothing more liberating than surrendering every detail of your life into the mighty hands of God. So many people today are exhausted, not because their problems are too big, but because they are trying to hold everything by themselves. They are clutching fear, carrying burdens, gripping pain, and wondering why they cannot find rest. But the hands of God are stronger than your hands. The wisdom of God is higher than your understanding. The timing of God is more perfect than your planning. And the moment you release your grip, the moment you say, God, I place this in your hand, that is the moment divine peace enters your soul. When you put everything in God's hand, you are not giving up. You are rising up. You are rising to a higher level of trust, a higher dimension of faith, a higher awareness that your life is not random. Every delay, every disappointment, every closed door is part of a divine orchestration that you may not understand now. But one day you will see clearly, God never asks you to understand everything. He asks you to trust Him in everything. The human heart loves control. We want to decide when, how, and why things should happen. But control is an illusion when you walk with God. Because the truth is, you were never in control. You were only invited to trust. You were never the author of your story. You were only called to believe in the one who writes it. When you surrender your plans, your worries, your fears, your future, and even your pain into God's hands, something supernatural begins to happen. You start to experience freedom from within. God's hand is not a symbol, it is power. It is the invisible force that holds creation together, the unseen protection that shields you in moments when you should have fallen apart. Think about it. It was God's hand that lifted the broken, that opened seas, that shut the mouths of lions, that turned darkness into light. That same hand is stretched toward you today. The same hand that shaped the stars and spoke life into being is ready to hold your life with precision and purpose. Why would you try to manage life's storms when the one who controls the wind is waiting to take the helm? There is something profound that happens when a person decides once and for all to stop worrying and start trusting. You become untouchable by fear. You become unshaken by circumstances, because your confidence is no longer built on what is around you, but on who is within you. Every time you say, God, I give this to you, you are breaking the chains of anxiety and allowing divine peace to reign in your heart. You see, faith is not saying you believe in God while still clinging to control. Faith is releasing. Faith is letting go. Faith is walking forward with open hands, trusting that what leaves your hand never leaves God's. Many people pray, but few truly surrender. They speak words of trust, but deep inside, they still hold on. But when you truly place something in God's hand, you stop checking to see if it's still there. You stop doubting if He heard you. You stop replaying what you can't fix. You rest because you know the one holding it never fails. When you put everything in God's hand, you also put yourself in a position to see miracles. Because God does not move in the realm of control. He moves in the realm of surrender. The moment you release it, the supernatural begins to work. Doors that were sealed begin to open. People that were against you begin to lose power. Situations that made no sense suddenly start to align. That is the mystery of divine movement. It begins where human control ends. Some of you have been asking God for change, but you have not yet released what needs to be released. You want peace, but you are still holding the burden. You want progress, but you are still clinging to the past. You want clarity, but you are still trying to decide the outcome. You cannot hold both faith and fear in the same hand. One must go. And when you choose faith, you are choosing to put it all in God's hands. Look at your life right now. Every unanswered prayer, every fear, every waiting season, God is saying, will you trust me? Not halfway, not with conditions. Not only if things go your way, but completely. Because trust that is conditional is not trust, it is negotiation. And God does not negotiate with fear, He destroys it with power. When you put everything in God's hand, you are declaring that you believe He knows what is best, even when you don't. You are confessing that His way is higher, His timing is better, and His wisdom is perfect. You are stepping out of the limited realm of your own reasoning into the limitless realm of divine orchestration. You are saying, God, even when I don't understand, I know you are working. Even when I don't see it, I know you are moving. Even when I am weak, I know your strength is enough. There is something beautiful about watching God work after you've let go, because He never wastes your waiting. Every delay becomes divine preparation. Every hardship becomes holy shaping. Every loss becomes a hidden setup for something greater. But none of this can happen while your hand is closed. Can only feel what you are willing to release. That's why when people tell you to trust the process, they are only half right. Because the process has no power if the hand of God is not in it. You must trust the one who holds the process, not the process itself. You must fix your eyes on the hand that holds tomorrow, not the uncertainty of today. When you do that, you rise above the fear that once controlled you. You begin to walk in peace while others panic. You begin to smile in the storm because you know the storm is not your master, God is. Everything you are facing right now has already passed through the hand of God. Nothing touches you unless it is allowed by Him for your growth or protection. Even the things that broke you, He will use to build you. Even the pain that hurt you, He will use to shape you. Because God's hand not only holds your future, it molds your character. Every difficulty is a divine tool forming strength, humility and faith within you. When you truly put everything in God's hand, you begin to see life from a higher place. You stop reacting to the temporary and start trusting in the eternal. You stop letting emotions dictate your peace and start allowing divine truth to anchor your soul. This is the secret to an unshakable life. A heart that rests in God's will cannot be broken by man's actions. There is a quiet power that flows from full surrender, a deep calm that silences every storm, because the one who trusts in God does not fear what tomorrow brings. The one who rests in God's hand knows that whatever comes, God has already gone before it. So many people live in anxiety because they still believe they must control what only God can manage. They try to force outcomes, manipulate timing, and hold together what is already falling apart. But there is a sacred peace that comes when you say, God, I give it all to you. You are saying, I will not fight the current of your plan. I will let it carry me. You are saying, I may not see how this ends, but I know you have already written the ending. And that kind of faith, that deep, surrendered faith, opens the gates of divine favor. Because when your heart is no longer wrestling, your spirit becomes receptive. God cannot fill hands that are already full. You must empty yourself of fear, of pride, of control, so that His hand can shape, bless, and elevate you. Letting go is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the wisdom of knowing that your understanding is limited, but God's is infinite. It is the strength of knowing that even in silence, God is speaking. Even in stillness, God is working. When you rest in that truth, you stop chasing after what is fading and start standing firm in what is eternal. Many people ask, how can I trust when I don't know what's next? The answer is simple. You trust because you know who holds what's next. You trust because you believe that God never loses control. You trust because every time you have fallen, His hand has lifted you again. Trust is not built on clarity, it is built on faith. You may not know the path, but you know the hand that guides you. You may not see the destination, but you know the one who created the map. When you place your journey in God's hand, even detours lead to destiny. There will be moments when it feels like everything is falling apart. When doors close, when friends turn away, when opportunities disappear, do not panic. Those are not signs of abandonment. They are signs of alignment. God removes what hinders your path so that He can replace it with what fulfills your purpose. Sometimes God will allow certain things to fall from your hand just to remind you that your hand is not the source, His is. He takes away only to give you what is greater. And though you may not understand it now, one day you will look back and thank Him for every no, every delay, every unanswered prayer. You see, when you put everything in God's hand, you are also putting yourself in a place of transformation, because surrender does not just change your circumstances, it changes you. It breaks your pride, strengthens your humility, and deepens your faith. It teaches you to live with open hands and a soft heart. It turns you into someone who no longer fears loss, because you have learned that what is meant for you will never pass you by. That is the confidence that comes from divine trust, knowing that nothing good can slip through God's fingers. There is a divine mystery in the way God works. Often, He will strip away your safety nets so that you can finally see that His hand has been holding you all along. He will close every door you're trying to force open until you turn to Him and say, I can't do this without you. And in that moment, when you finally let go, when your soul whispers, I surrender, the atmosphere of your life shifts. What you could not make happen in years, God can do in moments. Because when you give God complete control, miracles are no longer optional. They are inevitable. Putting everything in God's hand does not mean life will be free from trials. It means you will walk through them differently. You will no longer panic in uncertainty because you know the outcome belongs to Him. You will no longer fear failure because you know that even if you fall into His hands. You will no longer compare your journey to others because you trust that what God has written for you cannot be taken by anyone else. You will live with a stillness that cannot be shaken because your peace no longer depends on what happens around you, but on who reigns above you. There is no greater wisdom than knowing when to release control. Some hold on to people that God is trying to remove. Some hold on to plans that God is trying to redirect. Some hold on to pain that God is trying to heal. But healing begins the moment you release. When you finally open your hands, you make space for divine restoration. God cannot pour new blessings into hands that are clenched in bitterness, fear, or resistance. But when you say, God, I trust your timing, your will, and your purpose, you align your life with His flow, and what once felt like chaos begins to make sense under divine order. The truth is, every time you try to take control, you interrupt what God is doing. You delay what was meant to happen naturally. You interfere with divine timing. That is why peace often feels far away when you insist on your own way. But when you let go, when you put everything in His hand, life begins to flow again. You start to see how every delay was protection. You start to realize that every unanswered prayer was a hidden blessing. You start to feel that every loss was making room for something greater. Because God never withholds what is good. He only withholds what is not aligned with your divine purpose. Faith means trusting God's hand even when you cannot trace His movement. It means believing that He is guiding your steps even in darkness. It means knowing that every season, whether joyful or painful, is necessary for your growth. Nothing in your life is wasted when it is placed in God's hand. Every failure becomes wisdom. Every heartbreak becomes strength. Every waiting season becomes preparation. When you understand that, you stop asking why and start declaring, thank you, God, for choosing me for this lesson. Putting everything in God's hand also means surrendering your identity, your ego, your desire to prove yourself. Because when you live for human approval, you are always at the mercy of people's opinions. But when you live for God, you are free. You no longer chase validation. You stand in conviction. You no longer worry about who sees your worth. You know your worth is already secured in divine eyes. When your life is in God's hand, you no longer perform. You simply live, led by peace, guided by wisdom, and sustained by unseen grace. The more you trust God, the lighter life becomes. You stop trying to force things that were never meant to be. You stop arguing with people who are not part of your path. You stop panicking when things shift unexpectedly. Because you realize, if it's in God's hand, it's safe. If it's in God's hand, it's guided. If it's in God's hand, it's already working for your good. You begin to move through life with quiet confidence. Not because you know the outcome, but because you trust the one who determines it. And here is the truth: the moment you let go is the moment you rise, because surrender is not defeat. It is alignment. It is saying, God, you lead, I will follow. And when you do that, your entire atmosphere begins to change. Your energy becomes peaceful. Your decisions become wise. Your heart becomes calm. And your mind becomes clear. You no longer act out of fear, because fear has no place where faith reigns. You no longer fight for control, because control has no meaning where God is already in charge. God's hand is not passive. It is alive, active, and all-powerful. It is the hand that lifts you when you have fallen, that shields you when you are attacked, that guides you when you are lost. It is the same hand that writes your destiny with precision, ensuring that every chapter of your life fulfills its divine purpose. So when you put everything in God's hand, you are not losing control. You are placing it in the safest, most powerful, and most loving control that exists. When you put everything in God's hand, you begin to understand that peace is not found in the absence of problems, but in the presence of divine control. Real peace does not come from having a perfect life. It comes from knowing a perfect God. You could be surrounded by storms, and still have calmness in your heart when you know who holds the wind. You could be standing in uncertainty and still feel anchored when you know that every detail of your life rests in the palm of divine wisdom. This is the secret strength of those who walk with God. They may be shaken, but they are never shattered. They may cry, but they never collapse, because they know that nothing can fall apart when it is held together by the hand of God. Many people misunderstand surrender. They think surrender means giving up on effort, but surrender means giving effort a direction. It means that instead of working in your own strength, you allow your energy to flow with divine purpose. You still act, but you act in peace. You still plan, but you plan in faith. You still move, but you move under divine guidance. To put everything in God's hand does not mean you sit back and wait. It means you walk forward without fear, trusting that every step you take is already seen and guided from above. When you begin to live like this, you no longer measure success by outcomes. You measure it by obedience. You stop asking, did this go my way? And start asking, did I stay in God's way? Because when your decisions are led by the divine, even delays carry blessings. When you are in God's timing, even what looks like loss becomes gain. When you are in alignment with divine will, even confusion has meaning. This is why those who trust in God are never truly disappointed, because they understand that even when things don't go according to their plan, they are still going according to God's plan. There will be moments when God asks you to release what you love most. He will test your heart, not to break you, but to free you. He will remove attachments that have become idols. He will ask you to place your ambitions, your relationships, your reputation, your fears, all of it into His hand. And in that moment of surrender, your soul is purified. You begin to realize that you were never meant to possess anything permanently. You were meant to be a steward of what belongs to God. The moment you give back to Him what was never truly yours, you are set free from the chains of attachment. Let me tell you something powerful. The hand of God is never late. You might think you have missed your opportunity, that your time is over, that what you hoped for will never come to pass. But God does not operate by human clocks. He is not bound by deadlines or pressured by seasons. His timing is precise because His wisdom is perfect. When you think it's too late, God says, I am just beginning. When you think it's over, God says, watch me make a way. You see, what is impossible for you is effortless for Him. What you struggle to understand, He has already written into your destiny. That is why putting everything in His hand is not a risk. It is the safest decision you will ever make. If only you knew how many things God has already saved you from. The accidents that never happened, the betrayals that were exposed, the failures that were redirected. Because His hand was upon you. You don't always see it, but every time you trust, He acts. Every time you let go, He moves. Every time you choose faith over fear, His unseen hand begins to align the details of your life in ways you could never imagine. You don't need to see it to believe it. Faith is believing that even in silence, God is speaking. Even in stillness, God is working. Even in confusion, God is guiding. Putting everything in God's hand also means accepting that not everything you desire is meant for you. Sometimes God will withhold something not because He is punishing you, but because He is protecting you. You might think a certain path or person is perfect, but God sees beyond what you can see. He knows what will destroy your peace, even if it looks beautiful right now. So when something doesn't go your way, instead of asking, why? God, start saying, thank you, God, for protecting me from what I cannot see. That is true faith, to trust divine wisdom, even when it contradicts human desire. The more you grow in faith, the more you understand that surrender is not a one-time act, it is a daily choice. Every morning you must wake up and say, God, I place this day in your hand. Every decision, every encounter, every challenge, you give it to Him before it even begins. When you live like this, anxiety loses its power because you no longer live from reaction, but from revelation. You stop living from fear of what could happen and start living in peace, knowing that whatever happens, God is already there. This is how divine peace works. It doesn't mean you have everything you want. It means you are content because you trust the one who gives and takes according to wisdom. It means you stop comparing your path to others because you know that your blessings are being customized by the hand of God. It means you no longer panic when doors close, because you know a closed door in your life is simply God saying, this way is not for you. And when you walk with God, you learn to thank Him for both the doors that open and the doors that close, because both are part of His divine protection. When you put everything in God's hand, you also begin to see how temporary everything else is. You stop clinging to material things as if they are eternal. You stop seeking validation from people who cannot add a single moment to your life. You stop fighting battles that are not worth your energy, because your focus shifts from earthly control to divine alignment. You begin to live with the awareness that everything you have, your health, your breath, your opportunities, are gifts on loan from God. And that awareness creates humility. It makes you more grateful, more patient, more peaceful. There is a divine rest that comes when you finally stop trying to force what is not meant to be. You realize that what God has prepared for you cannot be taken by anyone else. You realize that no human hand can block a door that God's hand has opened. You realize that no amount of effort can make something succeed if it's not in divine timing. When that truth settles deep into your spirit, you stop striving and start flowing. You stop chasing and start attracting, because everything that is yours will find you when your life is aligned with the will of God. The storms of life will still come. The winds will still blow. But when you have placed your life in God's hand, you will not be moved. The same waves that drown others will carry you higher. The same losses that break others will build you stronger, because you are not sustained by circumstances. You are sustained by faith. And faith built on God's power is unbreakable. Even when everything around you seems unstable, your spirit remains steady because you know the foundation of your life is divine, not human. There will be days when you question the silence of God, when it feels like your prayers go unanswered, when it seems like nothing is changing. But silence does not mean absence. In the silence, God is preparing. In the stillness, God is positioning. In the waiting, God is strengthening your faith. What you call delay, He calls development. He is shaping you for what you have been asking for. Because sometimes the blessing is not ready for you. And sometimes you are not ready for the blessing. But when both align, divine timing manifests, and everything falls into place with perfect precision. So keep your heart steady. Keep your trust anchored. Keep your hands open. Do not rush what God is still preparing. Do not doubt what He has already promised. Do not fear what is beyond your control. Because the same hand that created the heavens, that paints every sunrise, that commands the seasons, that hand is holding your life with flawless care. Nothing is too heavy for Him, nothing too complex, nothing too late. When you give it all to God, you place your life in the safest, most capable hands in existence. And that is where your peace will live, not in perfect conditions, not in predictable plans, but in perfect trust, in knowing that every breath, every turn, every moment of your journey is already held, protected, and guided by the eternal hand of God. When you finally reach the place where your heart whispers, God, I put everything in your hand, something powerful happens within you. You step into a peace that cannot be disturbed by the noise of the world. You no longer chase after what is fleeting. You walk in alignment with what is eternal. You stop trying to understand every mystery and simply rest in the assurance that the one who formed you knows exactly where you are meant to be. That is the highest form of faith. Not seeing, not knowing, not controlling, but trusting completely. Putting everything in God's hand is not an act of weakness. It is the ultimate act of strength. It takes courage to release what you love. It takes faith to wait when you do not understand. It takes humility to say, God, not my will, but yours. Yet that is where miracles are born, in surrender. Because the moment you let go, you make space for divine power to flow freely in your life. You make room for blessings that your own strength could never produce. You invite peace to replace panic, wisdom to replace confusion, and strength to replace fear. You must understand, life will always have moments that test your faith. There will be seasons of silence, moments of loss, and days when nothing makes sense. But when your life is in God's hand, you never walk those valleys alone. His unseen guidance will carry you through places that would have destroyed others. His divine timing will restore everything that was taken. His protection will cover you in ways you may never even realize. Every challenge becomes a chapter of growth. Every trial becomes a doorway to transformation. So do not fear the unknown. Do not be anxious about what is ahead. The same hand that lifted you before will lift you again. The same wisdom that guided you through yesterday will guide you through tomorrow. The same love that sustained you through storms will sustain you through calm. Every day, remind yourself, I do not need to know how everything will unfold. I only need to know who holds it all. And that knowledge, that deep, unwavering trust is what turns ordinary faith into extraordinary peace. When you put everything in God's hand, your heart begins to glow with quiet strength. You begin to speak differently, walk differently, live differently. You stop living in fear and start living in freedom. You no longer chase after control, you rest in surrender. You stop begging for certainty and start embracing divine mystery. Because you have learned the greatest truth of all, that the hand of God never fails. It never drops what it holds. It never forgets what it protects. It never delays what it promises. So today, wherever you are, lift your burdens, your dreams, your pain, your fears, and place them into that mighty, merciful hand. Say it from your soul. God, I trust you with everything. Then breathe deeply and let peace wash over you. Because once it's in God's hand, it's already handled. Once it's in God's hand, it's already protected. Once it's in God's hand, it's already working for your good. That is the power of true surrender. To live each day with open hands and a trusting heart, knowing that you are not carrying life alone. You are being carried by the same divine hand that holds the universe together. And when your life is held there, you can walk through any storm with peace, any trial with strength, and any darkness with unwavering light, because everything, absolutely everything, is in the hand of God.